Justice for Shaquille Robinson.
Justice for Shaquille Robinson.
Justice for Shaquille Robinson. My sister, the queen of the movement, Tamika Mallory.
Good morning. First of all, let me just say thank you all so much for showing up today. This family needs support. It is all too often that when black women are harmed, people don't show up. We fight against that. It is a struggle that we deal with in this movement often, that we cannot find people to stand solid and to continue to show up months and months and months later as these situations unfold. So I want to thank those who drove up from North Carolina.
Yes.
I want to thank all of you who've come out today to be here and to be present for Shaquille Robinson's family. I also want to thank my co-founders of Until Freedom, Attorney Angelo Pinto, my son Lennon and Linda Sarsour, for taking my leadership, which oftentimes I come to them with a lot of crazy things, and they listen and they back me up and they support me. And if I say this is an issue that we need to get involved with, we do it for all of us. We do it for one another. But specifically, I want to say as a black woman in this organization that I appreciate that they take it seriously to stand up for justice for black women. I truly do take it as it is on my behalf. You know, this is not a difficult thing to understand, as Attorney Crump has said. It is not complicated.
That's right.
There was a woman, forget about being a black woman, a woman was beaten to death on camera, and she returned from a vacation with her neck and back, her spine broken. It's very simple. We saw an attack. It'd be one thing if you did not see a video, and perhaps we could come up with some other explanation for what happened to her. But in this case, what we see is very clear. She was beaten to death.
That's right.
And if she wasn't beaten to death, somebody needs to tell us exactly what happened. And there are 6 people who were there who know the answers, and they need to be present somewhere where they are being asked and demanded of the truth.
Amen.
Particularly the person who we saw, and I want to correct something that has been said, and I am asking every single person from the media to be careful about the narrative. I know that my brother Roland Martin will be careful about this, and I'm asking all of you, there was not a fight. There was no fight that took place in that house. There was an attack against one person. We did not see a fight. In fact, we hear the other individuals on the video asking her whether or not she was willing to fight back for herself, as they joked while she was naked. And she tells them clearly, no, she does not want to fight. And they continue to allow her to be beaten, and then her neck and spine was broken, and she returned home to her family in a box. That is what happened. It is not complicated. So as my sister, Sunshine Anderson from Charlotte, North Carolina, who couldn't be here but has been a great supporter of this family, would say, when you tell us it's complicated and there's issues, we've heard it all before. And we don't want to hear it anymore. We want to see that there is movement, action, that something happens for Shaquille Robinson. Forget about her being a black woman. She is a woman, and she is a United States citizen, and we know what you can do. We know what you can do. Let me tell you why we know what you can do. Because we've seen you do it before. When Natalie Holloway went missing in Aruba, America stopped. It stood still. Even I stood still. We shared the information. When the White House had press conferences, they would ask questions about her. The media would not let it die. Natalie Holloway was in our homes every day, and she should have been. And so should Shaquille Robinson. And so should Shaquille Robinson. I want to thank my dear sister, Rabbi Bara Elman. Come on over here, Bara Elman. The rabbi has come down to show that this is not just about black women. This is about all women. And that we must all stand together in saying that enough is enough of this country disrespecting our people and disrespecting humanity. The question that I have for President Biden, for Merrick Garland, the head of Department of Justice, the question that I have for the head of the United States State Department, what would you do if it was your child?
Come on now.
What would you want to see happen in this country if it was your child who was beaten to death on camera without clothes?
Yeah.
Imagine that her family had to watch a video of their baby, their sister, being beat to death with no clothes on and no support. What would you want President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, what would you want as a black woman if you saw your sister being beaten like that? How would you move? What calls would you make? What would you expect in terms of the answers that this family has not been provided? They have been told that there's no information that can be given to them, but that they will get a call back. No family wants to hear that. They should be invited on a regular basis to conversations where it is clear what this country is doing. Now, some will say, I'm sure, when they start with their narrative, they are going, I see it's raining and we're going to be quick. They will say that they're doing a lot. But the problem is that this country does not have a good reputation of protecting black women. And so therefore we cannot take your word for it. We want to see it with our eyes and hear it with our ears. We want the same attention that other white women have received. And in fact, we are calling it the white women missing treatment. We want to see that put in action for Shanquella Robinson. Move expeditiously. Use your resources and be intentional about justice for this young sister. Because as you know, we will not go away. We didn't leave Breonna Taylor's family, and we will not leave Shanquella Robinson's family.
There's some new information in the Shanquella Robinson case. The Charlotte Observer was able to obtain a copy of the police report from Mexico, which differed pretty drastically from the death certificate. According to the death certificate, Shanquella died 15 minutes after her injury. That's not the case. They also failed to note any signs of obvious injury, which her parents both noted were present. Winter Donovan, one of the Cabo Six, called for medical personnel at 2:13. When the doctor arrived an hour later, she was told that Shanquella had had too much to drink and was inebriated and probably needed an IV. The doctor found stable vital signs and tried to give her an IV with fluids, but Shanquella was always unresponsive and she could not get the IV in. The doctor told these friends that she needed to go to the hospital, but the friends refused, asking her to treat her only in the room. The doctor, remember, was only told that she was intoxicated, so she continued to try and treat her in the room with an IV, but was unsuccessful. Her vital signs were stable until they weren't. Her blood pressure started dropping, her oxygen stats started dropping, and the doctor began performing CPR. At that time, Winter Donovan then called the ambulance. EMTs arrived and gave her 14 rounds of CPR, 5 doses of adrenaline, and 6 electrical shocks, but they were unable to revive her. She was declared dead at 5:57. That's hours after her initial injury. Her cause of death, as you know, was listed as severe spinal cord injury, broken neck. So almost as infuriating as watching the guy film and not step in to help Shanquella is the fact that these 6 gave the doctor bad information on what her injuries were, which prevented the doctor from giving her adequate care. Now, could she have lived had they transported her to a hospital with the proper neck precautions? I don't know, but I'd certainly say it was a chance. This is Dejanay Jackson. This is the woman who was in the fight with Shanquella. At the end of this video, I'm going to flash up some of the screenshots from her Instagram account where she decides that she's innocent and she wants to give her side of the story. But I can't find the screenshot. I found it last night, but I can't find the screenshot. But she indicated that she was not going to give her story unless she was paid for it. Classy. 2 other things that are pretty important to know. When they found Shanquella, she was allegedly clothed in her pajamas. So they took her body and put her pajamas on her, probably injuring her more in the process. And also, the FBI has given permission to extradite these 6 back to Mexico should Mexico decide to press charges. Let's go, Mexico. Here are the screenshots from Dejanay Jackson's Instagram account.
It It is time to do an update on the Shaquille Robinson case. We finally have some notable updates that we can talk about. So the first thing is that the Robinson family now has legal representation, and it is pretty high profile. They are now being represented by Ben Crump and Sue Ann Robinson. On March 13th, a letter was sent from Ben Crump and Sue Ann Robinson to the President and the Secretary of State requesting their immediate diplomatic intervention on this case. What they sent was an 18-page letter that details a lot of information that we already knew, as well as new information that was obtained during a fact-finding mission in Mexico. This 18-page letter specifically requests that the U.S. either follow the extradition protocol and turn over the individuals responsible for Shaquilla's unaliving to the Mexican authorities, or the U.S. federal law enforcement agencies can request concurrent jurisdiction with Mexican law enforcement, which would permit U.S. prosecutors to bring the case to the U.S. If you go on my website, baywatch86.com, you will see a post dedicated to this case and a link to the 18-page letter that you guys can read yourself. It's worth it to read. There's interesting evidence in there. Perhaps the most interesting and most explosive thing from this document is the testimony from a gentleman who was the concierge there at the villas. And this person was the one who interacted the most with Dejanay. So we already knew that this was Dejanay's birthday trip. And it's very obvious from the testimony that this individual gave that Dejanay was kind of like the centerpiece of this trip. She's the one that he was in contact with. He had her phone number. He's coordinating events with her. He was pretty much the only person that he had main contact with. So this thing that we saw in the beginning of this case about Shaquille being the one to pay for everything and all this other stuff, to me was bullshit. And I think this kind of debunks that. So the concierge confirms that Dejanay arrived a little bit later to the villa than planned because she stopped to go shopping, and he actually coordinated the transportation from the airport so she could go shopping. But he mentions that there was a couple, he uses the word couple, that arrived at the villas significantly earlier than Dejanay, and it makes me wonder if that was Shaquille and perhaps Khalil. And the only reason I say that is because we have Instagram stories that show that Shaquille and Khalil were swimming. And well, at least Shaquille was in the pool swimming, I think skinny dipping. And Khalil was there, but we don't see the other folks. So it makes me wonder if maybe they arrived early, they were hanging out by the pool, having a good time before the others arrived. Just my speculation. The concierge also confirms that there was a chef on site that prepared a private meal for them, which we already knew from the mother who said that Shaquille mentioned that to her, that they were going to have a chef preparing tacos and doing tequila with them. And of course, we saw this in those Instagram videos. According to the concierge's testimony, Shaquille was the last person to arrive at the table for dinner. And according to his testimony, he's saying that she really didn't look like she was with the group. It was kind of obvious she wasn't with the friends, and she didn't really appear to be having a good time. So we know from the video of the attack on Shaquille that it happened very early in the morning, but the concierge says that he wasn't reached out to until almost 2 o'clock that afternoon from Dejanay asking for medical help. So a few hours later, when the concierge learns that Shaquille has actually passed away, he goes to the villa to offer his condolences. Now, he says that the energy in the room was very relaxed. That's the word that he used, that it didn't really look like a bunch of people that just lost their friend. He offers a hug to Dejanay, and she's very cold and standoffish with him. She is also the one that mentioned to him that Shaquille passed away from alcohol poisoning, which again, he thought was kind of weird. Now, his testimony does mention that there was a young woman there that was really skinny and that she was really, really sad. And it makes me wonder if that was Elise. She's very slender. And remember, her sister had been unalived the day before in North Carolina. So she could have been sad about that. The concierge said that when he left the room where everybody was, he heard laughter when he walked out. What? Now, around 9 p.m. that evening, this is the same day that Shaquille has just been unalived, Dejanay reaches out to the concierge again to ask for transportation to go to dinner because nobody had eaten all day and they wanted to go to dinner. So the concierge arranges for this. But what he does not know is that they actually had the driver take them to an airport hotel. The next day, which would have been Sunday, the maid goes into the room and notices that no one's there. The concierge tries to reach out to Dejanay. She is non-responsive until the following day, which is Monday, which also happened to be Halloween. And she lets the concierge know that she's back in the States and is there anything she needs to do to check out from the hotel, which again makes me think that everything was in her name and not Shaquille's. So y'all remember that video, that horrific video of Shaquille being attacked. So according to this document, on November 16th, 2022, one of the travel mates shared a video from a cell phone camera around the campus of Winston-Salem University, the college that Shaquille Robinson attended. And this is also where these other folks attended as well. They all met at school. Why would somebody on this trip wait 2 whole weeks, 2 weeks, to circulate this video? Why wouldn't you delete it? Why would you have such a key piece of evidence that you would release to the world like that? Because remember, around the 16th of November is when this case really started to pop off on social media. Now, that concierge says that when he saw that video and it went viral, he was shocked, completely shocked, because he recognized Dejanay on site and Shaquille and was completely horrified, because that's when he realized like something really, really went down in that room. It is shameful that a family, a grieving family, who lost their child in the most horrific and traumatic way should have to write a letter to the President of the United States and the Secretary of State to try to gain traction on this case, because there has been no movement. We know who was there. We have their names. We have their addresses. We have evidence of them being on film watching this girl get attacked. What is the holdup? I'm not mad at Mexico. Too many people are making this about Mexico. I'm mad at the United States for their inaction on this case. An American did this to her, a group of Americans. Now, the White House did acknowledge the letter being sent to the President and the Secretary of State. They offered their condolences and basically said that there wasn't much that they could comment on because there was an active investigation with the FBI, which to me is a cop-out because the FBI is clearly not communicating with the Robinson family. I think it would be in the best interest of the FBI and quite frankly the US in general to do some sort of a press conference in the near future, like within the next week or two, to address this case and to provide the family and the public an update, because right now it's not looking good.
Finally, an update in the Shaquille Robinson case. As most of y'all know, Shaquille Robinson was unalived by her friends, allegedly by her friends in Cabo, Mexico late last year, October. We finally have an update this morning. Thank you, God. So according to civil rights attorney Ben Crump, he is now representing Shaquille Robinson's family press conference in Washington, D.C. on Friday. So on March 3rd, 2023, there is also going to be a event that's going to be held. And it's basically going to be standing up for justice so that this can be expedited. And this is absolutely ridiculous that this is not expedited because no one's been arrested for the unaliving of Shaquille Robinson, who was brutally unalived by one of her so-called friends in Cabo, Mexico. So the civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump has joined the legal team for the family of Shaquille Robinson. Crump, Shaquille Robinson's family attorney, Sue Ann Robinson, Shaquille's mother, Salamange Robinson, Shaquille's sister, Quilla Long, and others will hold a press conference on Friday, March 3rd, 2023 in Washington, D.C. And this is going to be big because this could possibly get the attention of the president and other, members of the White House, so we can have some change and we can figure out what we need to do to move this forward and get this going, because this is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I wanted to come on here and give y'all a quick update because I'm just finding out about this. So I wanted to make y'all aware of this because I've been covering this case. And I am just praying for justice for Shaquille Robinson because, baby, we need it. We need it. Okay? So make sure y'all pray. Make sure y'all show up if y'all are in the area. And make sure y'all stay grounded and stay prayed up. All right? Justice for Shaquille Robinson.